Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's presentation. I'm excited to have you here as we explore the important topic of protected area establishment, legal framework, and ecological development. On this first slide, you'll see our main focus areas. We'll be discussing how protected areas are established, the legal structures supporting them, and the role of ecological development in conservation efforts. Over the course of this presentation, we'll cover these key topics in detail. So let's get started. Let's start by understanding what a protected area is, according to the IUCN, which is the International Union for Conservation of Nature. They define a protected area as a clearly defined geographical space. This space is recognized, dedicated, and managed through legal or other effective means. The main goal here is to ensure the long-term conservation of nature, including the ecosystems and the cultural values associated with them. Protected areas are really vital for conserving biodiversity. They provide safe habitats for countless species, helping to preserve the rich variety of life on Earth. Additionally, they play a key role in maintaining ecosystem services, which are the benefits that nature provides to people, like clean water, air, and resources we rely on daily. So, in essence, protected areas are at the heart of our efforts to safeguard natural environments and support human well-being, connecting to our overall goal of sustainable conservation. Conservation initiatives in Tamil Nadu have a rich history that predates many national efforts. The state recognized the importance of wildlife preservation early on and enacted specific laws to protect its valuable animals. For example, the Tamil Nadu Wild Elephants Preservation Act of 1873 and the Wild Birds and Animals Protection Act of 1912 were established long before the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 came into being at the national level. This proactive approach set a strong foundation for conservation in the region. One notable milestone is the declaration of Vedanthangal Bird Sanctuary in 1936, which holds the distinction of being the first bird sanctuary in India. That shows how Tamil Nadu was ahead of its time in recognizing the need to conserve bird life. Another significant achievement is the Mundantherai Sanctuary for tigers, declared in 1962. Interestingly, this was nearly 11 years before the launch of Project Tiger in 1973, indicating Tamil Nadu's pioneering role in tiger conservation and protected area management. Overall, Tamil Nadu has been a trailblazer in managing protected areas, developing forest resources, and conserving wildlife. These efforts highlight the state's commitment to safeguarding its rich biodiversity and connect directly to our broader theme of effective conservation strategies. Let's take a closer look at the protected areas of India. These are defined according to the guidelines prescribed by the IUCN or the International Union for Conservation of Nature. The IUCN provides a global framework for conserving nature, and India follows these standards to classify and manage its protected areas effectively. There are mainly 4 types of protected areas in India. The first one is national parks. These are large areas set aside primarily for the protection of wildlife and their habitats, where human activity is limited to ensure conservation. Next, we have wildlife sanctuaries. These areas also aim to protect specific species and their habitats, but they often allow for some sustainable activities like ecotourism and research, balancing conservation with local needs. The third type is conservation reserves. These are areas where the government encourages local communities to participate in the protection of wildlife, promoting a collaborative approach to conservation. Finally, we have community reserves. These are areas jointly managed by local communities and the government, emphasizing community participation in conserving biodiversity while also supporting local livelihoods. Understanding these different categories helps us appreciate the structured approach India takes toward conserving its rich biodiversity. Each type plays a vital role in maintaining ecological balance and safeguarding our natural heritage. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's talk about the protected areas of Tamil Nadu. These areas cover about 3,305 square kilometers, which is roughly 2.54% of the entire state's geographic area. To put that into perspective, it also represents around 15% of the recorded forest area of Tamil Nadu, which totals approximately 22,643 square kilometers. In terms of ranking among all Indian states and union territories, Tamil Nadu comes in 14th place for protected area coverage. Now, within these protected regions, there are some key highlights. The state boasts 5 major national parks. These include Anamalai in Coimbatore, Mujamalai in the Nilgiri district, Mukurthi also in Nilgiri, Gulf of Mannar near Ramanathapuram, and Gidi in Chennai. Each of these parks plays a vital role in conserving Tamil Nadu's rich biodiversity. In addition to national parks, Tamil Nadu has 5 tiger reserves. These are Anamalai Tiger Reserve, Calicut Mundanthurai, Mujamalai, Sathiamangalam, and Megamalai. These tiger reserves are crucial for tiger conservation efforts and showcase the state's commitment to protecting some of its most iconic wildlife. Connecting this to our overall theme, you can see that Tamil Nadu's protected areas are a significant part of its environmental strategy. They serve to preserve biodiversity, support ecological balance, and promote sustainable tourism. These efforts are essential in safeguarding the natural heritage of Tamil Nadu for future generations. Let's take a closer look at some of the key protected areas and reserves that play a vital role in conservation. Starting with elephant reserves, we have 5 major ones: Nilgiri Elephant Reserve, Nilambur Elephant Reserve, Srivaliputhur Elephant Reserve, Anamalai Elephant Reserve, and Agasthiamalai Elephant Reserve. These reserves are crucial for protecting the habitat and migration corridors of elephants, which are vital for maintaining ecological balance. Moving on, we also have 3 biosphere reserves, which are larger protected regions focusing on conserving biodiversity while promoting sustainable use. These are Nilgiris Biosphere Reserve, Gulf of Mannar Biosphere Reserve, and Agasthiamalai Biosphere Reserve. They serve as important zones for research, conservation, and community involvement. In addition, there are 3 conservation reserves dedicated to protecting specific species or habitats. These include Thurapudai Maruthur Birds Conservation Reserve, Suchindram Thuror, Managudi Conservation Reserve, and the Dugong Conservation Reserve. These areas help safeguard vulnerable species and their ecosystems. Finally, the network includes a total of 18 wildlife sanctuaries, of which 17 are designated specifically for birds. These sanctuaries are essential for preserving the diverse fauna, especially avian species, and supporting biodiversity at a regional level. Overall, these protected areas form a comprehensive framework for conserving our rich natural heritage, balancing ecological needs with sustainable human activities. They are integral to our broader conservation goals and reflect our commitment to safeguarding the environment for future generations. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's start with the first part of the procedure, which is the preliminary notification under Section 18. This is essentially the official step where the state government announces its intention to designate a particular area as a wildlife sanctuary. They do this by issuing a preliminary notification, which is published in the official gazette. Now, this area isn't chosen randomly. It must hold ecological, faunal, floral, geomorphological, natural, or zoological significance. In other words, it should be an area of special environmental importance that warrants protection. This step is crucial because it officially marks the beginning of the process and informs the public and stakeholders about the proposed sanctuary. Moving on to the next key step, which involves the appointment of a collector under Sections 18 and 19. The collector's role here is very important. They are tasked with investigating and determining the rights of any individuals who might have claims over the land within the proposed sanctuary. This could include rights related to grazing, collecting forest produce, habitation, or other traditional uses. To do this properly, a public notice is issued, inviting people to come forward and claim their rights. Typically, there's a fixed period, usually not less than 2 months, during which these claims can be submitted. This process ensures that the rights of local communities and individuals are recognized and considered before finalizing the sanctuary's boundaries and regulations. Overall, these steps are designed to balance ecological conservation with social considerations, making sure that the process of declaring a wildlife sanctuary is transparent, inclusive, and well-regulated. Now, let's move on to the next part of our process, which involves the inquiry and settlement of rights, covered under sections 19 to 25. Here, the collector plays a crucial role by conducting a thorough inquiry into the nature and extent of rights that individuals or communities may have in the area. These rights could be recognized and allowed, modified, or even extinguished, depending on the situation. Importantly, if any rights need to be acquired by the government, this is done through fair compensation, in accordance with the Right to Fair Compensation and Transparency in Land Acquisition Act. Next, we come to the declaration of the final sanctuary, detailed in Section 26A1. Once all rights have been settled, the state government issues a final notification published in the official gazette. This step officially designates the area as a wildlife sanctuary, marking a significant milestone in conservation efforts. Finally, the legal enforcement section, starting from Section 27 onwards, ensures that once an area is declared a sanctuary, it receives full legal protection. Entry or residence without permission is strictly prohibited, and activities such as hunting, poaching, grazing, or any destructive actions are either banned or heavily regulated. The management of these sanctuaries is carried out by the Chief Wildlife Warden and the Forest Department, who work together to preserve and protect the wildlife and their habitats. This entire process underscores our commitment to conserving biodiversity while balancing the rights of local communities and ensuring legal safeguards are in place. Let's walk through the procedure for declaring a national park. First, the process begins with the identification of the area. The state government plays a crucial role here by selecting an area that holds ecological, faunal, floral, geomorphological, or zoological importance, areas that really need protection for their unique natural value. Once the area is identified, the next step is the preliminary notification, as per Section 35(1). The government issues a notification in the official gazette, clearly stating their intention to designate this area as a national park. Importantly, from the date of this notification, the area is protected from activities like hunting or any other harmful activities that could threaten its integrity. Following this, there's the appointment of a collector and the process of right settlement, under Section 35(3). The collector is tasked with investigating the existing rights of local people over the land, things like grazing, collecting forest produce, or even habitation. The collector also issues public notices and calls on locals to submit claims regarding their rights. This step is quite similar to what we see in the process for wildlife sanctuaries, as outlined in sections 19 to 25. Overall, this procedure ensures that the declaration of a national park is thorough, transparent, and considers the rights of local communities, all while prioritizing the conservation of vital natural areas. Now, let's talk about the acquisition of land and the extinguishment of rights. Unlike sanctuaries, where some rights can remain, in a national park, all rights must be fully settled or acquired. No rights can stay inside the park boundaries. If there are any existing rights, they are acquired through the process defined by the land acquisition laws, and this is usually done with fair compensation to the rights holders. Once all rights are sorted out, the next step is the final notification, as per Section 35(4). This is when the state government officially issues a notification declaring the area as a national park. It's a crucial step because it formalizes the park's status and sets the legal framework for protection. Speaking of protection, after this final notification, the area receives complete legal enforcement. No human activity is allowed without permission. Activities like grazing, hunting, or removing forest produce are strictly prohibited to ensure the conservation of the ecosystem. Finally, the management of the park is overseen by the chief wildlife warden along with other forest officers. They are responsible for enforcing these laws and managing the park effectively, ensuring that the protected area remains safe for wildlife and their habitats. Let's walk through the procedure for declaring a conservation reserve under sections 36A and 36B first. The identification of the area is crucial. The land must be government-owned, such as forests or wastelands, and it's typically located near existing national parks, sanctuaries, or migration corridors to ensure ecological connectivity. Next, the state government consults with local communities. This involves engaging with villagers, Gram Sabha, and other stakeholders to assess their willingness and support for the reserve. Their involvement is vital for sustainable conservation efforts. Once there is consensus, the government issues a declaration notification in the official gazette. This formal step officially designates the area as a conservation reserve, making the conservation plan legally binding. Finally, a management committee is formed under Section 36B. This committee includes forest officers, representatives from local panchayats, NGOs, and conservation experts. Their role is to prepare and implement management plans, ensuring the reserve's effective protection and sustainable use. This entire process emphasizes community involvement, legal formalities, and collaborative management, which are all essential to successful conservation initiatives. Now, let's walk through the procedure for declaring a community reserve. As outlined in sections 36C and 36D first, the process begins with the local community or landowners themselves. They voluntarily propose to conserve an area, specifically for wildlife protection. It's important to note that the land must be either privately owned or owned by the community to qualify for this process. Next, there's a consultation phase. The state government steps in to consult with the community, making sure they are willing and cooperative in this conservation effort. This ensures that everyone is on the same page and committed to protecting the area. Once there's agreement, the state government issues a formal declaration through a notification published in the official gazette. This officially designates the area as a community reserve, giving it legal recognition. The final step involves forming a community reserve management committee. As per Section 36D, this committee is headed by a local representative and includes various stakeholders like community members and forest department officials. Their role is crucial. They oversee the day-to-day protection, management, and conservation of the reserve, ensuring that the area's ecological integrity is maintained effectively. Overall, this process emphasizes community involvement, legal formalization, and active management, key elements in successful conservation efforts. This slide doesn't contain enough information. That's why we're moving to the next slide. Let's explore the legal framework that underpins wildlife and environmental protection in India. Starting with the Constitution, Article 48A explicitly directs the state to safeguard the forests and wildlife of the country. Meanwhile, Article 51A emphasizes that every citizen has a duty to protect and improve the natural environment, including forests, lakes, rivers, and wildlife. These constitutional provisions set the foundation for environmental responsibility at both the government and individual levels. Moving on, India has enacted several key laws to strengthen this framework. The Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 is considered our cornerstone legislation. It provides comprehensive measures for the protection of wildlife and their habitats. Then, there's the Forest Conservation Act of 1980, which regulates forest use and aims to conserve forest cover. The Environment Protection Act of 1986 broadens the scope further, covering various aspects of environmental pollution and conservation. Lastly, the Biological Diversity Act of 2002 focuses on the conservation of biological resources and equitable sharing of benefits derived from them. Focusing specifically on the Wildlife Protection Act of 1972, it has a structured approach. It defines key terms like protected area, wildlife, and habitat, which are crucial for understanding the scope of the law. The Act also contains specific sections that establish mechanisms for protection. For example, Section 18 allows for the declaration of sanctuaries, providing a legal status that ensures their preservation. Section 35 deals with the declaration of national parks, which are designated for their ecological importance. Sections 36A and 36C introduce community reserves and conservation reserves, recognizing the role of local communities in conservation efforts. Furthermore, the Act assigns important roles to officials like the Chief Wildlife Warden, who oversees enforcement and management within the protected areas. It also establishes the National Board for Wildlife, which advises the government on wildlife conservation policies and strategies. Altogether, these laws and provisions form a comprehensive legal framework that guides our efforts to protect India's rich biodiversity. They connect directly to our overall theme of sustainable conservation, highlighting how legal mechanisms are essential tools in safeguarding our natural heritage for future generations. Let's take a look at the institutional framework that supports biodiversity conservation in our country. First, we have the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, or MOEFCC. This is the central body responsible for formulating policies, implementing laws, and overseeing overall environmental governance. Next are the state forest departments, which operate at the state level, ensuring that national policies are effectively translated into local action and management. They play a crucial role in on-the-ground conservation efforts and enforcement. Then, we have the National Biodiversity Authority, which specifically focuses on conserving biological diversity, regulating access to biological resources, and protecting indigenous knowledge. This body works to balance conservation with sustainable use. The Wildlife Crime Control Bureau is another key institution. Its role is to combat wildlife crime, coordinate enforcement, and prevent illegal trafficking of wildlife and their products. Finally, the judiciary plays a vital role through landmark case laws that have shaped conservation laws and policies. These legal rulings reinforce the importance of protecting biodiversity and ensure that laws are upheld effectively. Altogether, these institutions form a comprehensive framework that supports our collective efforts to preserve biodiversity. They connect policy, enforcement, and legal action, which are essential to addressing the complex challenges we face in conservation. Now, let's look at some of the challenges we face in establishing protected areas. One major issue is encroachments and human settlements, which often threaten these spaces by reducing available habitat and disrupting ecosystems. Conflicting land uses also pose a problem, as different interests compete for the same land, making it difficult to designate and maintain protected zones. In addition, inadequate funding and staffing are persistent hurdles. Without sufficient resources, it's challenging to enforce protections and manage these areas effectively. Climate change impacts further complicate conservation efforts, as shifting weather patterns and rising temperatures can alter habitats and threaten species. Lastly, political and local resistance can hinder establishing and maintaining protected areas, especially when communities feel excluded or affected by these decisions. Turning to the ecological importance of protected areas, they are vital for conserving biodiversity, protecting the variety of life that sustains healthy ecosystems. They also play a crucial role in watershed protection, ensuring clean water supplies for communities and wildlife. Additionally, protected areas contribute significantly to carbon sequestration, helping mitigate climate change by trapping greenhouse gases. They are also repositories of traditional ecological knowledge, which provides valuable insights into sustainable land management practices passed down through generations. Overall, these areas are not just about safeguarding nature. They are about maintaining the ecological balance that supports both human well-being and the planet's health. Let's take a moment to look at some of the key ecological initiatives that are shaping our conservation efforts. One important focus has been eco-restoration in degraded areas, particularly in regions like PA, where restoring natural habitats is vital for biodiversity. We've also prioritized establishing wildlife corridors, especially for elephants and tigers, to ensure these majestic animals can move safely across landscapes and maintain healthy populations. Another critical area is removing invasive species such as lantana and wattle, which threaten native flora and fauna. Restoring grasslands and shola forests is equally essential, as these ecosystems support a wide array of species and help maintain ecological balance. Moving on to recent developments, there have been significant updates like amendments to the Wildlife Act in 2022, which strengthen legal protections and refine conservation policies. Digitization of boundaries using GIS technology has improved our ability to monitor protected areas accurately. We've also increased the utilization of CAMPA funds for habitat development and the creation of new protected areas. Under Project Tiger, more tiger reserves are being established and managed, while Project Elephant is expanding to include more elephant reserves. All these initiatives and recent developments are interconnected, forming a comprehensive approach to ecological conservation, which is central to our overall mission of preserving India's rich biodiversity for future generations.